Let the record show, Chancellor Vex began, his 7 pupils dilated with irritation, that Earth has made no formal announcement, no diplomatic code, no registry, no allegiance. He leaned forward, claws tapping the crystalline desk. And yet, a ship the size of a small moon now floats at the edge of our space, ignoring every hail. There was a moment of collective smirking. One counselor, a thin-limbed Drexesian, let out a low chuckle. Perhaps they lost the manual. More laughter. Hollow, nervous. Ambassador Threx adjusted his vocal modulator and hissed. The humans have not responded in 4 days. We believe it is a bluff. Likely abandoned tech. We should board it. Another voice cut in, dry, sharp. You believe too much. Silence. The room turned. It was Lady Syraxa of the Riven Court. She rarely spoke, but when she did, the room forgot how to breathe. I studied Earth, she said. They do not bluff like us. They don't speak before acting. They... Wait. Wait for what? Vex barked. Her slit eyes narrowed. For us to assume we're still in control. And still no reply had come from the ship. No movement. Just its looming presence. A silent monolith parked like a god on break. It's dead tech, someone muttered. Nothing that big would remain idle. But the size of the thing, 50 kilometers across. Blackened alloy no scans could penetrate. No heat signature, no emissions. And yet a gravitational wake strong enough to bend local asteroid fields. No ship ever made by the Council, or the Archon or the Mahari, had that kind of passive mass control. It simply existed, and existence in this case felt like a threat. Fleet Commander Creighton paced the bridge of the Vorlax Ascendant, eyes locked on the massive silhouette on screen. Still no response? Still nothing, sir. He clenched his jaw. Approach protocols. Formation Delta. We hail one last time, then send the boarding pods. The officer hesitated. Sir, if it's human. Creighton glanced at her. Then we'll know soon. Enough. Out near the Titan-class ship, the Vorlax fleet shimmered into formation. Dozens of sleek war cruisers fanned out like wolves circling prey. Unidentified vessel, Creighton's voice boomed across the void. You are in restricted space. Power down, respond. No answer. Repeat. Power down. Identify yourself. Nothing. Then, a blink. Not from the ship, from space itself. Light warped. Space groaned. And then came the first shift. No weapon fired, no signal screamed. The Titan rotated, just slightly, just enough for one of its eyes, yes, that's what it looked like, to come into view. A glowing circle along the hull. Watching. Creighton felt his spine stiffen. Sir, it's looking at us. He didn't respond. He couldn't. The silence felt heavier than any weapon. And that was before Earth even responded. The interior was wrong. That was Lieutenant Drek's first thought as his boots thudded onto the hull of the Titanic ship. The docking clamp hissed, the metal groaned, but not from age, from tension. This thing's alive, one of his squad muttered. Weapon at the ready. No heat, Drek replied. No life signs. But the doors opened on their own. Behind him, the team of elite enforcers filed through the breach. Not a single camera. No lights. Just reflective black corridors that seemed to drink in their torch beams. Mark your path, Drek ordered. Crumbs every 15 meters. I don't trust the geometry. He didn't say it aloud, but nothing about the layout made sense. Rooms curved back on themselves. Hallways sloped at impossible angles, and yet their balance never shifted. Gravity was local and intelligent. There was no sound but their breathing. And even that began to feel unwelcome. Sir, came a whisper from his comms. We found something. He moved fast. 3 corridors over, down a ramp, past a field that shimmered like frozen lightning. Then he saw it. A wall, covered in names, carved, not printed. Human script. Thousands of names burned into steel. What is this? Drek asked, eyes scanning the markings. Each line, each groove was too precise, too deliberate. One of the soldiers shivered. Memorial? Warning, another whispered. You don't write names unless they're lost, or you want them remembered. AVD Spike. Then the lights came on, but not from above, from beneath their feet. The floor glowed faint blue, illuminating their shadows in strange, elongated shapes. They all froze. No one had touched anything. This place is responding to us. No, Drek corrected. It's studying us. A soft hum echoed down the corridor. Rhythmic, mechanical, like breathing, but not air. Something deeper. Subspace. Engines, AI core, then a voice, not from their comms, not from any direction, just there. You should not be here. 3 soldiers raised rifles. One screamed, another dropped to his knees. The voice wasn't loud. It wasn't threatening. It was disappointed. Who said that? Drek barked, spinning around. Nothing, just more silence, just more dread. Up on the Vorlax Ascendant, Commander Creighton watched the feed flicker. Static danced across the monitors. His officers scrambled to reroute visuals. Sir, they're inside, but comms are breaking. Getting interference from the hull itself. Creighton frowned. This isn't random noise. He leaned forward. Magnify, Sector 4. The image sharpened. The breach point. The boarding team's torches still active. Their shadows still moving. But they weren't. The soldiers stood still. Yet their shadows weren't. They're being rewritten, someone whispered. Creighton stared, throat dry. Pull them out. No one moved. Pull them out now. Too late. On screen, the walls of the ship began to shift. Flow. Fold. Swallow. The feed cut. The bridge went dark for a heartbeat. And then the ship, Earth's ship, sent its first message. One word, observed. Back on Velmara, the council reconvened. Faces pale, egos bruised, no more jokes. Lady Saraxa stood again. I warned you, she said coldly. Virex swallowed. What? What do we do now? She looked at the stars. We wait. For what? She didn't blink. For judgment. He hadn't been summoned in over 2 centuries. Admiral Volin, retired, exiled, and forgotten, now stood once more in the Chamber of Stars, his uniform stitched with dust, his eyes colder than space. You called me to speak about Earth, he rasped, so I'll speak. The council chamber was quiet. No one dared interrupt. You want to know what this is? Volin gestured to the frozen holoframe of the Titan-class ship. You think it's a warship. It's not. It's a message. Virex folded his arms, unimpressed. Then what's the message? That humanity no longer negotiates. 50 years ago, Volun had commanded the Helix offensive against an outlying Terran colony. It was meant to be a quick suppression, show of force, minor occupation. Nothing big. 3 hours into the incursion, 5 of his ships vanished. Not destroyed, just erased. No debris, no signal, just silence. He returned with 1 ship limping, and he remembered the name. It was carved onto the side of that black monolith now floating at the edge of Velmara space. Titan. Styax 01, the original. Name had been wiped from records, but not from memory. I told the council, Volin said slowly, that Earth didn't build ships to win wars. They built ships so no one would dare start one. He looked straight at Virex. And now one is here. AVD Spike. On the bridge of the Vorlax Ascendant, silence reigned. The boarding team hadn't returned. The breach had sealed. The giant remained still. And yet something had shifted. Sensors couldn't detect it. Eyes couldn't see it. But instinct felt it. The ship wasn't ignoring them anymore. It was waiting. Has it done anything? An officer asked. No weapons, came the reply. No signals. No movement. So what's it doing? A pause. Then Creighton said it aloud. Learning. He stepped closer to the screen, eyes narrowing. Something ancient, he muttered. That much power that doesn't need to attack. Another officer gulped. Maybe we should ask for peace? But Creighton shook his head. If we were still being given that option, we'd know. A ripple across the hull caught their eyes. Small, like a heartbeat through metal. Then another. Not random. A pulse. Back in the council chamber, Lady Saraxa broke the silence. They've named it Styx, she said. Do you even understand the symbolism? It's a river, someone said. On old Earth. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. No, she said. It's the river. The one they believed souls crossed when leaving life behind. Her voice grew colder. They didn't send a battleship, they sent a ferryman. There was no laughter this time. Not even a breath. No one said it, but they all thought it. What if Earth has already decided that the galaxy is dead? Bring it back, Chancellor Vex snapped. I don't care what it takes. Decode the signal. In the darkened analytics chamber beneath the council core, over a dozen species' finest minds stared at the repeating data burst from the human vessel. No encryption, no false trails, just pattern. One of the analysts, a soft-skinned, Cirx named Aheli, whispered, "It's not language, it's rhythm." What kind of rhythm? She hesitated. Heartbeat. Everyone froze. It's mapping our comms infrastructure, she added, horrified. Not breaking it, not jamming. It's syncing. Another analyst gasped. The ship's learning to speak our tech like it's a second language. Vex turned slowly to face the screen again. Then what's it waiting for? Aheli whispered. For us to ask the wrong question. On the Vorlax ascendant, Creighton stood rigid. The Titan hadn't moved, but something had changed in the surrounding space. The stars. They're dimmer, a junior officer murmured. Sir, are we drifting? No. Space is bending. Creighton exhaled slowly. The ship's pulling gravity around itself, subtly. It's warping its environment without thrust. The officer swallowed. What kind of reactor does that? Another answered quietly. One that doesn't care about physics the way we do. Back on Velmara, Admiral Volun raised a hand. This isn't just a vessel, he said. It's a psychological device. A fortress of silence. And that silence is the message. He stepped forward, staring at the council. I warned you decades ago, the worst thing you can do, Chow, is underestimate what humans do when they stop talking. Saraxa chimed in. And what happens when they start? Volun's face went pale. We've never lived long enough to hear it. Inside the Titan, systems stirred, not engines, not weapons. Memories, footsteps from long ago echoed in the corridors. Recorded in carbon shadows, every soldier who had ever walked its halls, every cry, every loss. The ship wasn't a weapon, it was a wound, and it remembered. Its walls weren't just metal, they were mausoleums. Suddenly, across the outer hull, giant. Words lit up, languages old and new. One phrase repeated, thousands of meters wide. Every ship in orbit received the same visual feed. We remember what was done. We remember who did it. We remember what we promised. Commander Creighton stared at the message, and, for the first time in his decorated military career, he whispered, We shouldn't have come. On the council floor, no one spoke. Vex, usually full of bluster, simply sat. Lady Saraxa closed her eyes. They're not attacking, she said. They're letting us realize, Volun added, that we were never in control, and far, far away. Deep within the Titan, a single human voice recorded decades ago, played back into the void. Soft. Calm. Let them speak first. Let them boast. Let them laugh. And when they believe we're extinct, we remind them what silence sounds like. Fleet Command of the Western Arkan Armada met in private. No press, no advisors, just military minds clawing at uncertainty. 17 battle cruisers. Admiral Carr spat, pointing to the last transmission. Gone. Not destroyed. Gone. Like the stars swallowed. Them, General Lutho flicked her talons. There's no proof the humans attacked. Oh? Carr hissed. You think space casually unravels itself in the presence of an abandoned hull? The room fell into silence. Not the respectful kind, the afraid kind. Carr slammed his fist on the table. We're armed with neutron cannons, singularity drills, and 5th-gen AI fleets. Why are we whispering like superstitious miners? Because, Lutho didn't say it aloud, something about that ship is listening. Meanwhile, in orbit over Velmara, the Titan hadn't moved a meter. But Vorlak's ascendant's hull was now covered in frost despite environmental shielding. Its energy core was spiking, not from external attack but from psychic pressure. Their chief tactician, a Duran named Yex, reviewed the sensor feed again. Every minute we orbit this thing, our crew's stability degrades, Yex whispered. Nightmares, insomnia, spontaneous nosebleeds. It's not radiation, it's proximity. Proximity to what? Creighton muttered. To history. On board the Titan, deep inside its lightless corridors, something flickered. A room, small, round, inside. A chair, empty. Opposite it, a single viewing screen. It turned on. A face appeared. Not human. Old. Pale. Wrinkled skin stretched over black. Eyes a Zalari. His name was Tyron Voss. His rank Xeno-diplomatic priest of high accord. His voice trembling. He had requested to speak. Not from the council. Not from command. But from himself. I don't know if you hear this, he said softly, but if any remnant of Earth remains within, know that I was there. He looked away. I saw what they did to you. AVD Spike. I didn't stop them. I justified it. To myself, to others. Said humans were too wild, too dangerous. Said we had to act first. The screen held his image, but the ship gave no reply. I brought you extinction. With words. He paused. I won't ask forgiveness. I know better. But I want you to know. I remember. The screen flickered. And two. The shock of everyone listening, the Titan replied. One line of text we remember too. On the council floor, chaos erupted. Why him? Virex shouted. A disgraced priest gets contact before us? Because he spoke with regret, Lady Saraxa whispered. Not strategy. Admiral Volune exhaled like he'd been holding it for hours. It's not a warship. It's a conscience. One we tried to bury. A young counselor stood up, voice shaking. Then what do we do? Volin didn't answer, because in his mind, he heard the words from the Titan's core. Over and over, we remember what was done. We remember who did it. We remember what we promised. And each time, the silence that followed felt louder. In the shadows of the Gadron cloud, Station Silex 9 activated its long-dead systems. Red lights blinked. Old AI cores groaned awake. Dust drifted like ash. The scientists had no idea what they were waking up. Protocol 13 wasn't on any official database. It required 3 genetic keys and an oath older than the current calendar cycle. But Dr. Yana Bilar knew because her grandmother had written it. They'll trigger it, she whispered, the moment they remember what fear tastes like. Now the moment had come. She keyed the final sequence, hands trembling. The walls vibrated. The console blinked once, and a voice, ragged, male, human, spoke. If this is playing, then the ferryman is near the river. She froze. No AI in the station should know that phrase. It wasn't code, it was poetry. Back on Vorlak's ascendant, sensors flared. Not weapons fire, not movement. Resonance. Commander Creighton watched in stunned silence as the Titan structure shimmered like a heat wave passing over cold metal. Then, from the very center of the vessel, a hatch opened. Just one, large enough to fit a cruiser. Inside, blackness, a tunnel of stars. Sir, an officer whispered. It's inviting us in. No, Creighton murmured. It's offering us a chance to understand why we shouldn't. Meanwhile, on Silex 9, the voice continued. You taught them war, but you never taught them grief. You called them beasts, but they wept in silence. You left them no choice but to evolve, not upward but inward. Yana sat alone in the dark, tears in her eyes. It wasn't a war, she whispered. It was a burial. Council Command called an emergency session. The room vibrated with panic disguised as order. We must retaliate, Vex barked. Launch the Singularity Lance. You want to fire a black hole at a silent ship? Saraxa asked, appalled. Vex stood. Yes, it's theater. Show strength, make Earth blink. A small voice from the far end asked, What if Earth doesn't blink? They all turned. It was Counselor Juno, the youngest among them. Think, she said, voice steady. What if this ship wasn't sent to fight? What if it was sent to judge? Saraxa sat forward slowly. A ferryman doesn't kill. No, Juno agreed. He waits. For what? Vex hissed. For the dead, to realize that they're already aboard. AVD spike. Inside the Titan, light began to spread through its tunnels, not glowing, not harsh. Memorial light. Thousands of holographic faces began to fade in across the inner walls. Men, women, children, human, some with uniforms, others with nothing but wide, scared eyes. Each one stared outward, at whoever dared to enter. A single line shimmered below every face, remembered by name, avenged by silence. The ship did not threaten. It did not roar. It simply remembered. And as the galaxy watched in helpless awe, the ferryman turned his vessel, not toward war, toward the first planet that had forgotten. The planet of Cytherian IV was small, peaceful, a mining world turned refugee haven, forgotten by most of the galactic elite, but not by Earth. Not by the Titan. The moment its engines pulsed just once, the entire galaxy felt it. Not a jump, not warp, a slip, a ripple through subspace, elegant and ancient, like a thought made physical. And then, it was in orbit. Cytherian skies turned black, not from weapons, from presence. Above the clouds, the Titan hovered like a moon that had changed its mind. Children pointed at the sky, elders fell silent, and those who remembered wept. In the central monastery, an archivist named Vel Toma stared at an old, cracked image, a family of settlers, humans smiling. The picture had been hidden for decades, tucked between false histories and purged files. They had lived here, before the cleansing, before the Council erased the colony under Planetary Stabilization Protocol 8. Vel's hands trembled. It came back for them, she whispered. On Velmara, the Council went feral. That planet is defenseless. Vex shrieked. We said it was uninhabited, barked another. It's a sanctuary world now. Saraxa spoke above them all. No, it was a graveyard long before it was a sanctuary. Silence followed. Voluan leaned forward, voice hollow. We told the galaxy they died from plague, but we buried the truth with them. He looked at the Titan's live projection, and the truth has a very long memory. On the Vorlax Ascendant, Creighton stood on the observation deck. The Titan hadn't fired. It hadn't spoken. It simply sat above Cytherian IV, waiting. One of his crew stepped beside him. Why that world, sir? Creighton didn't look away. Because that's where the lie began. AVD spike. Then, across every screen, every channel, every sensor, a face appeared. Not human, not alien, artificial, eyes like neutron stars, voice like layered memory. It didn't introduce itself, it simply asked, Do you know the names of those you erased? No one answered, not a single counselor, not a single commander. And the voice continued, Because we do. We engraved them, on hull and heart. And we carry them. Forever. In the sky above Cytherian, lights along the Titan's sides began to flicker. One by one, names etched in starlight. Thousands. Millions. Each name drifted outward like petals. No weapon fired. No threat issued. But from every corner of the galaxy, those names were seen and remembered. Some, for the first time. The ferryman had arrived, not for war, for witnesses. The name hung in space, Aveline Mora. It shimmered across the hull of the Titan, drifting outward like smoke that refused to fade. Petty Officer Jaren Drell couldn't breathe. He stared at the feed from Cytherian 4, mouth dry, fingers twitching over his console. That name had been locked away in the deepest corner of his guilt. His first assignment, his first cover-up. A mining accident, they told him. Contain the humans, evacuate the survivors. Deny the rest existed. He was young. He believed them, until the screams, until the override orders, until the silence. Jaren leaned forward and whispered. She was 12. His commanding officer turned. What did you say? Jaren stood, his voice louder now. I said, she was 12. AVD spike. Every officer on the bridge froze. The feed zoomed closer on the Titan. Another name appeared beside Aveline's. Jaren Drell, not etched in blame, etched in remembrance. On Velmara, the council fell into disarray. Their listing, our own people now. Vex howled. They've hacked our databases. Saraxa shook her head. No, they haven't. She pointed to the screen. They're naming the ones who remember. Vex sneered. What does that mean? It means guilt isn't hidden. It's heavy, Volun said softly. And that ship can feel it. Within the Titan, a spark lit in the memory core. Jaren's file activated. His voice, recorded long ago during a standard debrief, played across its chambers. I followed orders. I didn't look back. I didn't ask who was screaming. The ship did not judge. It simply played the memory and added his name to its constellation of the mourned and mourning. It didn't matter that he was alien. Grief was universal. And grief, on Earth, had always been sacred. Elsewhere in the galaxy, the ripple spread. Ships halted mid-jump. Councils canceled meetings. On thousands of worlds, citizens looked up and saw names. Names they hadn't heard in generations. And something strange happened. They stopped shouting, stopped planning, stopped pretending. They started remembering. On Silex 9, Dr. Yana Balar reviewed the Titan's newest pulse. It's not a weapon, she said. Her assistant raised an eyebrow. Then what is it? Yana looked at the names dancing across space. It's a mirror. She tapped the display. And it's showing us what we buried to stay comfortable. The assistant said nothing, just nodded. Because for the first time in living memory, the stars weren't afraid of what Earth would do. They were afraid of what Earth would remember next. The chamber doors slammed shut. 12 shadowed figures stood around a circular table deep beneath council archives. Far from public view, far from oversight, they were called the Architects. Officially, they didn't exist. Unofficially, they had ended wars before they began. Project Starvale is active, one of them said. All assets authorized, no signatures, no hesitation. Another leaned forward. And if it doesn't work? A pause. We don't have a second plan. They all knew what that meant. Kill memory, or die with it. High above Cytherian 4, the Titan hovered in silence. Names still pulsed outward. No shields raised, no engines active. It simply watched. But the Architects didn't aim to fire at the ship. They targeted the past. Deep inside the central vault of Velmara, an old archive server suddenly sparked to life. Red code ran like wildfire. Ancient human records, photos, logs, testimonies, vanished in milliseconds. Every image of Cytherian's colony, every word spoken by its dead, every witnessed atrocity. Gone, AVD spike, or so they thought. Because far from Velmara, hidden in a derelict station orbiting a gas giant, a small terminal flickered. Lines of code reappeared, and a voice, female, warm, human, spoke into the black. "We backed up everything. We knew you'd try, and we told the ship first." Inside the Titan, the walls began to glow. But this time, not with names, with scenes. Projected into orbit like ghostlight. The council chambers from 50 years ago. The orders, the laughter. The moment they signed away Cytherean's colony with 3 strokes of an alien pen. Now the galaxy saw it. Raw, unfiltered, unforgivable. On the Vorlax Ascendant, Commander Craden whispered, "They tried to kill history." His XO looked pale. They failed. The bridge screen was now showing a child, a human girl with soot on her cheeks and a crushed doll in her hand. She didn't speak. She just stared. Silent. Endless. And somewhere behind her, fire bloomed. In the council chamber, alarms blared. "We're being broadcast to the entire network," someone shouted. Virex slammed his fist. "Shut it down, jam it! Scramble." "No," Saraxa interrupted. Her voice was calm, but her hands trembled. "Let them see what we buried." Virex rounded on her. "You'd let this continue?" Saraxa's gaze never left the projection. "We already started it," she said. "They're just finishing the story." Back on the Titan, the voice returned, not angry, not triumphant, just final. "This was never vengeance. This is the funeral. And every lie you told was another nail in your own coffin." One last image filled the stars. The first counselor, signing the extermination order, smiling. Behind him, the Earth envoy, already turning to leave, already silent. And now, the ship had turned again. Its path clear, final. Not toward Velmara, not toward revenge, toward the heart of the Council's memory. Of course, because some ghosts refuse to be erased. The Council's memory core orbited the dead world of Arix. Buried beneath layers of quantum encryption, defended by fleets no map displayed, it held the galaxy's most sacred treasure. History, unaltered, unforgiven, untouchable, or so they believed. Until the Titan arrived. No fleet detected it. It simply appeared. No flare. No ripple. Just presence, sudden and final. The escort fleets froze. Sensors failed. Engines stuttered. Across every ship's deck, one phrase printed itself across consoles. "This is not conquest. This is correction." Inside the memory core, archivists scrambled. Not to fight, to hide. They knew what this was. The last gate. The final sin. One of them, a gray-skinned elder named Lohar, dropped to his knees. "I told them," he whispered, "if Earth ever comes here, it's not to rewrite us." He looked up at the main viewer as the Titan approached. "It's to remind us what truth costs." On Velmara, the Council met in chaos. "We must authorize the Cascade virus," Virex shouted. "Wipe the core before they reach it." "Do it," hissed one commander. "Burn it all before they weaponize our shame." But Saraxa stood, and for the first time in recorded Council history she raised her voice. "No." The chamber froze. "You want to destroy the truth," she said, "so we can keep pretending we deserve peace." She turned to Virex. "But what? If peace was never the default? What if we were never worthy of silence?" AVD Spike. Inside the Titan, a door opened. No weapons deployed. No AI spoke. Instead, a human stepped out. A man. Clad not in armor, but in faded black. No medals, no rank, just quiet. He floated toward the memory core. The entire galaxy watched. Not a shot fired. Not a scream made. He carried a small case. Inside, a single drive. He entered the core through a hatch that shouldn't have opened. But it did, because the core remembered him. In the central chamber of memory, he placed the drive on the altar. It blinked once, then bloomed. Across every screen, every world, every archive, the unedited record of Cytherean IV, of Aveline Mora, of the exile ships, of the silence that followed. of every apology that never came, and finally, of Earth, not in anger, but in grief. The humans stood alone, eyes closed, and one final message played, spoken not by AI, but by a child's voice. You don't have to be afraid of silence, but you should listen to what it says. It says we never forgot. And now, neither will you. Then the Titan turned. Its lights dimmed. Its name faded from its hull. No explosion, no beam. It simply vanished, into quiet, leaving behind only memory and the soundless echoing truth. Humanity's silence wasn't mercy. It was restraint. And now that it had spoken, the galaxy would never forget again.